We're going to start in Khan Yunis. And as Nora said in the news report, while the ground war in Gaza has curtailed because of the Israelis leaving, particularly leaving Khan Yunis after the 4-month operation in Khan Yunis, failed operation in Khan Yunis, failed ground invasion of Khan Yunis. The resistance attack, the Qassam Brigade's ambush that we covered on the show last week, chased the Israelis from Khan Yunis, and they left most of the areas of the south, and are just now, the Israelis are only along the corridor, the Netzarim Junction corridor that splits the Gaza Strip in half. And over the last the last 24 hours, 36 hours, the Israelis re-entered Beit Hanun in the northeast, which is the first place that the Israelis entered the Gaza Strip, and they're now returning to that area. People reported being besieged in the school, mass arrests of anyone over the age of 14 years old. And we're also just seeing the terrible crimes that are being unearthed, literally, at Shifa Hospital. Just brutal from a couple weeks ago's show. They're still digging bodies out that were buried by the Israeli army during the siege on Shifa Hospital, people with their medical equipment still attached to them, IV drips still attached, because Israel executed in the courtyard of Shifa Hospital patients. And the reason why they know where to dig right now, where they're digging for the mass graves, is because there's witnesses of the massacre at Shifa Hospital. Massacres in the middle camps that Nora reported on, of children in a playground. In Gaza City today, a massacre of people in an internet tent, trying to get an internet in one of the few places in Gaza that you can get an internet signal that was reliable. Massacres there. So while the ground operation has curtailed, the aerial war is what is deadly for Palestinians. And in this period of time, the death rate in Gaza has barely changed. And that's the dangerous element of this in-between period where Israel carries out this war from the air. So let's start with an operation in Khan Yunis. Soraya Al-Quds released this video the other day from Khan Yunis. This operation obviously took place before the Israelis left. We're looking at a sniper team here operating a Dragunov rifle. And you can see the spotter and the shooter. We're editing, as Paul said. We're self-censoring here. We're editing the hit on this soldier, and we're editing him falling. But this is a sniper operation in Khan Yunis that Soraya Al-Quds showed us. And we see the triangle of the soldier here. This is this is before the Israelis left Khan Yunis. So this is from about a week and a half ago. Soraya Al-Quds sometimes takes a little bit longer to get their videos out than Qassam, who we saw were able to turn around their videos still after 6 months of war, 5 months of ground war. Qassam and Soraya Al-Quds still have the ability to not only carry out these operations, but to have their media arms distribute them. And this has been a crucial part of how we've covered this war the whole time, is from videos from the resistance that they're giving to us with their media embedded into these units. And so we see in this video that the spotter and the cameraman are part of this operation. As you can see here, the spotter with his binoculars, and the shooter. And this is something, these sniper operations are something that we have seen consistently, and we will continue to see, because they're able to reach the distance of the buffer zone. And so they're able to reach Israeli soldiers in the buffer zone. Gaza is so small that any Israeli presence in the buffer zone is within reach of the resistance. And these videos have shown us. And again, this is Soraya Al-Quds, the armed wing of Islamic Jihad, carrying out this operation. The Israelis did not claim any casualties on this operation, but again, the video tells the story as it has throughout this entire war. So maybe we can go to the next one after this here tomorrow. Number two is this is in East Jabalia. So we go from Khan Yunis in the south to east of Jabalia, which is in the north. And we see a Saraya al-Quds fighter here talking to the camera and saying to the Israelis, this is just before they re-entered Beit Hanun, saying to the Israelis that they're here. The fighter says on camera here that we're here, we're waiting for you, and we're ready for you. These forces are not degraded invisibly degraded. These operations are still being able to be carried out. This is the spotter here for this heavy machine gun attack, showing us that's an automatic machine gun post on the Israeli border, and you can see him with his Dishka 50 cal heavy machine gun. Now, this weapon that we're seeing used here, and pointing out that this is also an Israeli position behind the berm there. You see this weapon mounted on the back of the pickup trucks on October 7th that went into Israel. It's a weapon that you see on the back of pickup trucks all over the world, called a technical when they put them on it. But this is a Soviet weapon, a heavy machine gun that has a range of 2 kilometers. And so everyone in the buffer zone from the edge of East Jabalia here, Israeli positions in the buffer zone, are able to be reached by the resistance. And again, this is a fighter who's obviously aware of the narrative that's happening. They're obviously still communicating directly, because this fighter here is telling the Israelis that when they come back, that they'll be ready for them, that they're there waiting for them, while the Israelis are massacring children playing on a playground or sending quadcopters of crying babies to try to get Palestinians to come out of their house. Incidentally, that crying baby quadcopter only works because Palestinians do come out and help people constantly. And we see it in every single footage that we see from Gaza, people running towards the massacres to help people out immediately. We see people digging people out with their hands because there's no heavy machinery, because the Israelis went around and systematically destroyed the heavy machinery so the civil defense crews couldn't dig people out of the rubble. And so we're seeing that. And we saw people along the border, as Nora reported, trying to go home to the north. And Israelis shot those civilians, but we see the fighters here still able to operate. And so I think it's always interesting when Saraya al-Quds puts these fighters dialogues in, because you can see that they're still communicating. They're still able to get information and really communicate directly with the narratives that are happening on the ground. So this preceded the Israeli re-invasion of the north. And this is what we're going to see, I think, for the coming weeks and months, maybe, that the Israelis will operate on these raids. They called Shifa Hospital raid. They called it the gold standard of urban warfare. So this is the kind of idea that Israel plans to carry on with as we go forward here. So we can't see the result of this operation, but we still see the same weapons being deployed, and still able to produce these videos. And let's go to number 3 tomorrow. This is another interesting operation that we've been following throughout the course of this war. This is this is Qassam. This is actually, this is Saraya al-Quds. Sorry, this is Saraya al-Quds Islamic Jihad. This is in Khan Yunis, and we see them again here with another Israeli quadcopter, commercial quadcopter that has been landed by the resistance. We see Qassam and Saraya al-Quds both doing this, landing these quadcopters. You can see he's showing you the camera there on the video for the listeners, and for people listening, we're looking at a perfectly intact quadcopter. We see there on the wall indicating the day that it happened, showing that they're able to produce these videos immediately. The notice on the wall was the same day as the video was produced. And we're looking at a quadcopter that's unscratched. Again, clearly pointing out that the resistance is able to, presumably they're using GPS spoofing, they're jamming the signal and then using GPS spoofing to land these helicopters under their control. So they're using the terminology in their field reports that they took control of, is how the language of the field reports is. And this is the first video that we're watching here. This is the first video that we've seen the resistance actually film the drone in the air before landing it, which I think is one of the reasons they haven't been doing that is operational security for the method with which they're using to down these, which we don't know. They haven't shared that with us. But you can see, again, this is a second drone. This is in the middle camps now. They can do it from the north to the south of Gaza. And we're looking at a perfectly pristine, intact, not even scratched quadcopter. So it's clear that whatever is happening in the GPS spoofing, jamming process that the resistance is using is that they're able to take over these drones and completely land these quadcopters intact. These are commercial drones. It's not totally clear to me what the Israelis are using this for beyond what we all know they're using them for, which is to shoot their TikTok videos, because they have, of course, Israel is one of the world leaders in drones. They have many different types of drones that they deploy with encryption and systems that would protect in some way against this kind of electronic warfare that we're seeing happen. But you can see he's pulling out this. It looks like it's basically brand new. These are not falling out of the sky. They're not being shot out of the sky, although we've seen that as well, of course. Both of those things we've seen before on video throughout this war. But very interesting development that they're still able to do this and have been able to do this throughout the course of the war. I think we'll probably hear more about it after the war, but able to take down these quadcopters without a scratch. It's pretty remarkable. And then you can see there, that's footage of it in the air, that their fighters are able to video it right over top of them. And that's the first time that 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 has shown us the drones in the air. I don't know if that gives clues to the Israelis about the system that they're using, but they clearly don't seem to be worried about that, because this was part of a video that they released this week. And again, the language that they've been using throughout the war is that they take control of them. They're commandeering the signal and landing these quadcopters. And then we've seen 𝐓𝐡𝐞 do this. We haven't seen 𝐓𝐡𝐞 do it, probably for operational security, but we've seen 𝐓𝐡𝐞 take out the data cards and use the footage that the drone is capturing. So 3 interesting operations, all from the last week released. Again, we're still doing videos that are only from the last week, and we're still able to do that to cover the war. So that's the Gaza Strip, where the resistance is carrying on. Consistently, we also saw a sniper attack yesterday in the north from the Qassam brigades, and the Israelis admitted that a Shaldag Air Force Special Forces soldier was seriously wounded in an operation in the north. And I think based on the operations that the Israelis are doing in the Netzarim Junction, where they're expanding the buffer zone that divides the Gaza Strip in half from north to south, there's been, as always, resistance along that corridor. Anytime the Israelis are present, there's resistance. And that's also the case in the West Bank. We'll take a look here at a video from Tubas in the central northwest bank. And we're watching fighters here with the West Bank videos. This is 𝐓𝐡𝐞's Tubas brigade. And we're seeing these videos linking up an IED here, improvised explosive device. They're wiring it up, and they're talking about the ambush, which is now we're looking at the fighters with their guns getting ready, because it's a complex ambush. They set the IED against an armored bulldozer, and then their fighters are moving here, waiting for the bulldozer to hit that IED that's planted. This is as Tamun Junction, outside of Tubas, outside of the camp, the refugee camp, where there's been battles. There's basically, as Abdul Jawad said the other day, there's an intifada for sure in the north of the West Bank. There's armed struggle throughout the West Bank, but the pace and intensity of operations. It was 85 resistance operations in the West Bank just last week. This is one of 9 IEDs. There was 16 shooting operations, and if you include demonstrations and that there was more than 34 ops a day last week, including the demonstrations. We know that settlers, as Nora said, the settlers have been taking advantage of this situation in Gaza and in after the Iran missile attack to increase their violence. So what we see in the built-up areas in the West Bank is armed struggle, and then what we see in the countryside is the settlers working with the army to continue these attacks in the countryside. So resistance in the refugee camps has been fierce, and these IEDs are developing, and they're clearly getting better, and they're all over the West Bank. So this is an operation from Tubas in the north of the West Bank that I wanted to bring you guys. And we're seeing here, we've taken out the audio again, as Paul said, to try to beat these the censorship that's happening. But we're seeing there on the camera's jostling because the fighters are firing on the bulldozer. So it's a complex operation that happened in the West Bank. So I just wanted to bring you guys that from the West Bank. And then
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.